It's now 5 o'clock by my watch, so we'll call this meeting to order. I see we have some visitors. I see Jim Schrock, and then there's a laptop there I don't recognize, and Ron. So could you, our visitors, identify themselves, please? I'm talking about you folks out there on Zoom who aren't members of this committee.
John Herrick of the Hudson Boosters.
Okay. Jim? Jim Schrock? Yeah, yes. And then Ron. You're muted, Ron. So
Ron Howard, just a resident.
Okay, thank you.
Ron.
And I heard the earlier conversation that Jim Schrock is from the Hudson Boosters.
No. Oh, is he?
No, it would be John. John is from the Boosters.
John's from the Boosters.
Okay, I don't see that person. So
That's the one that says ASUS laptop.
Okay. All right.
That's John from the Boosters.
Very good. Let's move along. First item, approval of the minutes from the July 13th meeting. Any concerns or issues?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And then we had we haven't done that on May 31st special. I can't read it. July, to expand the screen. July 31st.
Correct.
Special public work meeting. Any issues or concerns?
No, I would move to approve.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve the minutes from July 31st. All in favor?
Aye.
Possible action on the August 10th Public Works meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the August 10th Public Works meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, first item of business, approve the 2021 Stormwater Utility Operating Budget.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So I guess to begin, this goes in front of the Public Works Committee every year as an annual item for you to review, ask questions, and then ultimately approve and pass on to City Council. It is a unique budget in that it is a stormwater utility fund, so it doesn't affect the levy. We receive these funds via a stormwater utility. It's $12 a residential equivalency unit. The larger the parcel of property or business, the more units you have to pay for. So we are expected to have a projected revenue of $530,457 for this upcoming 2021 year. There's been a lot of development over the past year, and a lot of those newer places will be coming online, which sees that what gives us that bump. We're also seeing other income revenues of $6,000. We're requiring per our new stormwater ordinance, we can charge a stormwater utility fee for erosion control on sites that are developed that are 1 acre or more, and that'll be collected through our building and zoning department. So David is in the process of drafting that fee, and that's kind of the estimated revenue that we'll see from that charge. So in total, we're looking at $536,457 for a total projected revenue. Now in the budget itself, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the narrative, there are some full-time wages, which kind of account for the biggest increase from last year. The new GIS coordinator, Nick O'Brien, 33% of his wages is coming out of the stormwater utility fund. And then Dean's wages, his full wages are impacted on this spreadsheet as well. So between Dean and Nick, that was approximately $44,000 in increases to the stormwater utility budget. So having said that, we had to decrease some other line items to basically balance out our revenues and expenditures. I decreased, $500 here, $1,000 here. Some of our bigger ones, if you're looking at the street sweeping budget, which would be, the second page in the spreadsheet, reduced from some repairs and machinery equipment from the street sweeper, other contracted services, just, relying on our in-house mechanic to perform more of those functions. If you go further down in collection systems, the engineering line item was $20,000 last year. I zeroed that out now that we have Dean. And then any engineering costs that we accrue will probably be a part of the capital outlay project, which we budget $200,000 every year to do stormwater repair projects, whether it's pond maintenance or repairing catch basins, stuff that is above and beyond what our staff can handle. And then other contractual services under collection system maintenance was $12,000 last year. We zeroed that out. Again, if there's anything, outside contractual services will just be included in the capital outlay as far as the big stormwater project. Other than that, like I said, inspection contract, that's under inspection, testing, and monitoring. I reduced that. It was at 10, reduced it down to 5 to kind of reflect historical spending there. So just looking at different line items that I could reduce in order to make up that ground with the staff coming on board. So, we're still able to, move forward with $200,000 in improvements, repairs that are needed throughout the system. So I feel good not having to touch that line item. We're still able to go through with a large, project up this upcoming season. So, all in all, like I said, it's give and take. You bring new staff on, you got to pay for them. You got to kind of cut back some other areas. So that's kind of what this budget reflects.
And as compared to last year or this year, 2020.
Mm-hmm. So in 2020, our projected revenue was, $495,960. So
right.
Increase of about $40,000 to next year for projected revenue.
How about the expenditures?
Expenses. So last year we had expected expenditures, of $535,607. So we were actually 39,000 projected at 39,000 over budget. If you look at the as of, we're only at $67,000 out of that projected 535, and a lot of our projects haven't hit the books yet. The biggest one that we have going on right now is Zappa. He's getting into our stormwater project right now. You notice downtown on Walnut Street, he's repairing some catch bases, so on and so forth. So, that'll be the bulk of our expenditures coming through.
I guess I know there's we always have a goal of minimum increase or a goal of the maximum increase that we want to see. So I guess that was the number I was looking for. Is it the same?
Yes.
I haven't found the right line.
Yeah, it's
shows the total here.
So you're looking at an increase of expenses from last year to this year?
Right.
So last year, our total expenditures, what we projected was $535,607. That's what was approved. This year, we're looking at total expenditures of $536,457. So approximately $900 increase.
Very good. That's excellent.
Yep.
Pick up the resources and still maintain the same budget. That's very good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Any questions? Anybody else have comments?
I was just going to say, I like that we have the GIS and the engineer as a portion of that being paid out of that. So that's really helpful. So I don't have a lot of questions. I would actually move to approve the budget as is there, as listed.
I don't have a lot of questions either. The as of date, of course, is the end of June now. That's kind of a ways in the past. Were our expenditures expected to come in as income and expenses expected to come in as pretty well budgeted for 2020?
Yep,
Okay.
there are. So, yeah, as far as the revenues are concerned, Chrissy does our billing. She's our billing coordinator for the city here. In our, stormwater is on the utility bill. And from what I understand, I mean, people haven't requested any delays in payment for utility bills. So the projected revenue should meet what we were projecting.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll second Paul's motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2021 stormwater utility budget. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item is discussion of possible action on acceptance of 2020 street maintenance projects.
Yeah, I think I'll take that one. So just recently we completed the 2020 street maintenance project, which if you look in the agenda, included a variety of different tasks, crack filling on certain streets, seal coating, which is the process of putting oil down the road, putting rock on top of it, and then putting a fog seal on top of that. And then certain streets, we did both those, seal coating and crack filling together. And that constituted our street maintenance project. The contractor finished the work by the end of August, which was the completion date. And due to the nature of the work, we didn't really have a punch list, which is engineering speak for essentially a cleanup list. So we feel that the project is ready for formal acceptance and final payment to the contractor. I will say also that the project came in under budget, which is great, and we hope to use that leftover money for 2021 street maintenance items because we'd like to do more of this in the future.
I would move to forward this item to City Council for acceptance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forward this item. The only comment I would make is I actually thought this is some of the best work that I've seen done here in the city in several years. So the streets that I travel anywhere were well done, and it was cleaned up and relatively painless. Not just I could see differences. I go out in the county and I see way different scenarios. So well done.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item, discussion of possible action on the state municipal agreement for High Ridge Road.
Yep, so I'll take this one. So the state of Wisconsin reached out to me probably about a month ago, and Dean and I had kind of been on them about the Hanley Road roundabouts, how they just blown up, right? And apparently we hold some leverage with the state because they got back to us and said that we'll be doing it here this next fall. They're doing a mill and overlay on those roundabouts. And they inquired if the city would like to piggyback on when they're going to be in here and do the eastern section of that road, which is High Ridge Road. And per an agreement from 2006, the city maintains basically, if you're heading eastbound, that second roundabout, the state stops maintenance at the termini of that roundabout, and then the city picks up the rest of the maintenance to the east, High Ridge Road. So, like I said, they reached out to me, and I said that, yeah, we would consider that. And so They sent over the SMA. The estimated cost for that work is $81,720 for the mill and overlay portion of our responsibility. And we would, of course, have to bond for this expenditure in the upcoming bonding cycle. So, staff is recommending approval of the SMA. When the state's in here, their estimated timeline is late 2021, so in the fall of 2021. And then, basically all of Hanley Road would have been redone in the last 3-4 years. So staff is recommending approval of the SMA.
If I can just chime in real quick here, Mike, too.
Yep.
In the SMA, they talk about that the city is on the hook for ADA improvements for the trail on the south side of Hanley Road. They didn't indicate a cost for that, and I haven't done any research into exactly how, if they are or are not out of compliance and how much that would cost. So just a little caveat in there that it might actually be a little higher than that, but that's still very reasonable, we feel, to take care of a problem that a lot of our residents feel on a daily basis. So
It's probably one of the areas we get the most phone calls about, to tell you the truth.
Really?
So
We would pay for it out of bonding, it sounds like, Mike, right, on the next cycle?
yeah. And I've actually included in the CIP, preempting kind of what our discussions tonight. Obviously it can be removed. Council hasn't approved it yet, but I have told Aaron about it and he's aware of the expenditure.
I would move to recommend the SMA with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to perform those repairs.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I did note those comments about the bike, the trail, and I was going to drive out there and just take a look at it because I don't even remember that it's there. So,
Yeah.
So we're going to take their word for that. But all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, discussion and possible action on the request of the Hudson Booster Clubs, Inc. to extend the lease agreement at 1150 Cratley Lane North, Village of North Hudson.
So this is a carryover item from last month's meeting. The contract did not have the inclusion of any COVID-related items that we've been instituting at all of our other publicly owned land. So we had Kathy review the document, and she actually made a bunch of changes from the original contract, which is from like the 1980s. And she included some verbiage in there. Leasing shall comply with the City of Hudson Parks Department 2020 Park Use Policy COVID Addendum. It's Exhibit C. And also on the exhibit was, basically an aerial of the land that we're talking about. And then Exhibit B is a list of items that the Hudson Boosters are looking to make improvements on over the next 10 to 20 years. The Boosters originally brought forward a lease term of 20 years. They wanted a 20-year option because if they make these improvements, they wanted to have kind of a peace of mind that the rug wasn't going to be pulled out from underneath them. So that's why they were proposing a 20-year. Kathy suggested going down to a 10-year just because of some of the problems that we've been having with other entities in the city and not locking this in long term. She wanted some flexibility. So the lease that's in front of you is 10-year. Boosters wants to have 20 years, and that's why John is on the phone call this afternoon, just to kind of reiterate why they want that 20-year lease. So John, if you're listening, now's the time to chime in on the Boosters' feelings.
And Sean, you are muted right now, so you'll need to unmute. There you go.
Okay. Yes, thank you for having me on the agenda. I think there's some really good reasons we have it there. I've sent Mike and Deb we've had the lease there for about 25 years, a couple lease renewals, and we had a considerable list of improvements, costly improvements to that site, including building the fields, putting in concession stands, putting in a well, putting in irrigation, and so forth. The list goes on to quite a few more. But some of the reasons we want it for 20 years is that we want to make improvements to it. So, like adding city and water to the facility. I know especially when the girls play there, you know, they like to have bathrooms, they like to have water. We should have water there, and toilets for the cooking area and things like that. And that's a pretty expensive thing to do, is to get water and sewer across there. I don't know if that would have to come from the Hudson City Department or if it has to come from North Hudson, but that's still a goal of ours, is to get that sewer and water pipelines in there. We've got some other major things. We need to add safety nets because of the way the fields are laid out. You've seen them probably in attachment of this agreement proposal. There's risk of injury with not having a net between the 4 fields overhead, and that's an expensive thing to do. You won't do that for 5 years, or probably not even for 10 years, but it is a safety issue. We'd like to build a storage building out there for our equipment and things like that, and it could be 5 years before we do it, but we wouldn't want to do it and only be able to use it for 5 years. So those are some of the big things that some of the boosters feel justify asking for 20 years versus 10 years. And I'll listen to your side of the story because I don't know if the city has any future plans that we should be aware of for that property. It's got limited use, but it works very good for youth, the younger kids' fields. We've got 4 of them there. They're the right length up until about 10 years old, 11, 12 years old at the most. They got the fences there. They got a concession building now there. We can operate that facility, and it's not like at Grandview at other facilities. We do everything there. We mow the lawn, we bring in the dirt, we bring in the gravel for the driveways. We do everything there. So I think it's one of the few opportunities that we can work together, and we don't have to look for building these fields someplace else in Hudson. I'll listen to some feedback.
Thanks, John. I have a couple of questions. First of all, I just want to say I think this has been a great relationship, in my opinion, throughout the years, and I think you guys are very valuable community. You do valuable community service by all the work you do at that location and with our youth. Do you have any idea about, like, have you budgeted for all these items and have any idea of the total investment over the, say 5 years or whatever that you're looking to achieve these 10 improvements?
No, but we haven't looked into getting the water there or where it's coming from. It's something there that we want to do. We've got some other priorities first. So if we sign this, I don't think we'd get to it next year, but possibly within 3 years. The building we need really bad. I mean, that's probably an $80,000 building we're going to put on there for the size of it. We've got some issues with the site the way it is right now that we can talk about later as we go through this contract maybe. But, as Deb knows, she called me and says, the place stinks. There's sewer, there's smells down there and all this. And being quite shocked about that, I went down there, and it wasn't anything we do. We didn't use the field this year, but it was all the people entering the field from the north and south field. North from the south and west side of the property. There's no fence up there. One house owner just mows his walking path right down to the fields. All that stuff I carried out of there was stuff that people from North Hudson there left on the field or put on the field when I was cleaning up. You know, I could have taken my manure spreader, I'm a hobby farmer, and take it down there and picked up most of the stuff. But the people in the neighborhood consider it their own private park. And you go down there and you talk to them, and they want to know who you are and why you're harassing them. And I says, well, we got signs up, no dogs in the park. And they just plain ignore them. So that's an issue I'd like to address in the long term. But if we have to put up with it, I guess we'll have to put up with it. But when they're using it, I don't know if they've got the right to use it or not, since it's in our lease. I think whoever leases the equipment or the property, at least the property I lease out, they have control of it. They have control of the snowmobiles go across it. They have control of what animals they put on it, all those kind of things. And I think if we lease it, we should be able to control it, and so forth.
So that is a good point that John brings up. That really isn't specified in this lease agreement, that, you know, Hudson Boosters retains exclusive rights to use of the property. Being a public property, I would recommend consulting with Kathy to get her legal input on that. If we can include that in the lease and give Hudson Boosters exclusive rights to those grounds, seeing that it is a public facility, I don't know how that works. I think we would want to reach out to her and have her confirm whether or not that's feasible or not. And if it is, I mean, I would look to entertain adding that into the lease too.
Yeah, I certainly would too.
I think there's one more thing in this lease. It says that we can't do anything on the west and south side, and that side, it's growing into shrubs and trees and just expanding down into the park. And I think if you want to keep that facility looking nice as it is, you'd want us to keep that brush cleaned out of there and keep that park looking nice, because it's got a nice background with those trees, but it's starting to look a little shabby down there, especially on the south side.
Yep. And John, actually in the lease, it says, the leasee shall not cut any trees or brush along the west and south side without first receiving written consent of the lessor. So basically you would just reach out to myself and we could walk the grounds and see what you want to. We just want to prevent someone going in there and clear cutting the whole west side and south side of the property. So, but it is feasible to reach out to myself and get written permission from the city to go ahead and do some trimming of some trees so that to keep the grounds looking nice.
Okay.
I think this is Jim Weber. The only concern that I have for reason to not extend it to 10 years is, and don't take this the wrong way, your list of what you want to do is admirable, but it's really aggressive. And I would like to see, I'd like to have some more assurance. I'd like to see a timeline perhaps, costs, you know, your ability to do that. Because right now I know nonprofits are having a hard time getting, unless you're COVID related or housing or food for people, support, tough time getting any funds. They're all being rededicated. So it's going to be a little slim for the next year or two, I think. So that's, you know, that's a great list and the really, really nice improvements that you're planning on there. And I don't want to question you too much on that, but it's really aggressive, and I think that's what Sarah was kind of hinting at.
I think I appreciate that. I think you know, the membership of the boosters turns over quite often, and over 20 years, you know, that could be 4 four groups continuing on. I'd hate to commit them up front, even though everybody involved today sees it as a path that we need to take. So I will consider that, Jim, and see how I want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd hate to quote a building today when you can't even go to the lumberyard and get material because they're out of them, you know. And, you know, some of the boards we won, they went up $10 a piece from 2 months ago to today, and some of them aren't even available in the 5-state area. So that's why I don't know if I can get a quote to even make sense to.
I don't think we're looking at a quote, you know, that's that cast in concrete. I think some ballpark information is more what we're looking at, you know, and priorities. I'd like it to look a little bit beyond the wish list.
Okay.
I think actually, you know, that I think everybody in Hudson on the council knows the work that you guys do, and you know, we admire it and respect it. But we want to try to make sure we keep this on a business basis as well. So
I can put together that. I can tell you number 7, 1, and 8 on that list that I provided to some of your people in this meeting are the top priorities. So I'll get some cost and I'll get that back to you, or estimates.
I think having those top 3 would be. I mean, that's really appropriate. The others we know we're not looking at next year, year after, maybe a year after that even. So let's take a look at the ones that are most important. That's a good thought. Let's do it. I'd like that. I would be happy with that. Paul, Sarah, what do you think?
Well, the thing I was going to say is that that the priority for the safety nets or some kind of a top on those bleachers, I think I would make my number 1, just because I've been to quite a few ball games there. My boys have been playing baseball the last few years, and those balls are whizzing by your head from other fields. You don't see them. They're hitting you on the back. And so I just think do the safety thing first would be the priority I would have. Jim, are you asking in terms of the number of years of the contract? Is that your concern?
Well, yeah, I think that's that has a lot to do with the improvements. I understand the position. We don't want to make these improvements if we're not going to, you know, if we think it's going to get taken from us. And it probably wouldn't happen, but maybe we compromise. 15 years.
Are you thinking more? Yeah, I have no problem going more years too, Jim. I think it's a win-win for the boosters and for the city. So I don't have a problem bouncing up more years if that's what is needed to feel like some of these changes would, you know, come into play.
I would agree with that. I think these improvements will, you know, help the organization a lot, and you know, it's definitely improving city property as well. To get water and restrooms that would be a real gift to the community, and to the people who are, you know, using this facility. So I'd be for, you know, and Jim, I think, just threw it out there. Maybe it's a compromise. Maybe we say, is 15 something that we could all live with right now, so that we can confidently move forward. I know the lease is up soon, so we don't want to take, you know, too many meetings to finalize this. Everyone wants, you know, it's in the best interest of everyone to, you know, get it zip tied up here. So if, John, did you give any thought to a 15-year lease? And how comfortable your organization would be with that?
Yes, I would feel comfortable with a 15-year lease. I would. And to your priority list, whoever said that safety nets, that is number 7, which I had mentioned earlier. Yep. That is our number 1 priority. So I want you to feel that we are working on it.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Thank you, John.
Michael, can you foresee anything that that the city might want to do with this land other than what we're doing now?
Not really, Sarah. I mean, there's such restricted uses out there just because of the location,
Right.
Being next to the old landfill. So even if we did want to develop it, I don't really think we could, to tell you the
Right.
truth.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess I would like to pursue the direction of revising it to a 15-year lease and asking Kathy to add in some language about their use being exclusive. I don't think that that's going to be a problem, and that, I don't, he can't put up signs that says private property, keep off, but at least it will help them a little bit. I mean, it's super irritating when you're picking up other people's trash and dog feces. It's not fun. And so I'd like to encourage, do what we can on our part to help the effort of keeping other parties from, basically trespassing onto his space. I know we give like exclusive use to the rowers. They have exclusive use, and that's private or public property. So I know there's other examples where we are giving exclusive use. So I think adding that language just might help the boosters out a little bit.
Okay.
And then I didn't know, I'm pretty sure that we need to discuss the blank line on item number 3 of the lease. I think she's looking for a recommendation from us to fill in that blank.
I think that's for future negotiations.
Right.
If I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, I had a question on that too. I didn't, because I think the line above it, doesn't it say that we can, we've got the
Yep.
right to extend the leases?
Yeah, you do. And then basically what it's saying is the city and the boosters would come forward to the appropriate committee 1 year prior to the lease expiring. And at that time, you would renegotiate another length of leasing, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. And that's where you would add it to that line from what I'm reading.
I don't know. I just think it's poor language. I'd rather have Kathy just fix that.
Okay.
I mean, it just says additional periods of time to be agreed upon by the parties or something. Having a blank line in the contract is just, I don't like it.
You should almost strike that last sentence,
Right.
Parties agree to meet to discuss possible extension of this lease at least 1 year prior to the end of the original lease, period.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So if you could make that happen, I would, that'd be, I think a good direction.
I had a question why that was even in there, but leave Kathy take care of that.
Right.
And number 4 on that, I've got 2 copies of this lease agreement. One says it's $1 per year. The other one says it's $10 per year. I don't know which one's the latest one.
$1.
Okay.
I think the old original version was 10, and I think we're trying to drop it to 1.
Yeah, we're giving you a deal, John.
You could take that to the bank.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
I think there's a couple more things here. I think in the top of it, it's the leaser is the Hudson Boosters Incorporated. Club is not an identity with us.
Okay.
That's not in our name.
Okay.
Good catch.
It's Hudson Boosters LLC, right?
No, it's not an LIC. It's LLC. It's incorporated.
It is incorporated. Okay.
All right.
I don't remember. Did we have a motion and a second on this yet?
No.
Sarah had started one that just she would consider a revision to the 15 years plus then add language of allowing them to exclusive. So if you want that
Yeah.
motion.
So I guess I would move to direct staff to revise this draft, having exclusive use, a 15-year term, and striking that second half of that sentence on paragraph 3, and then the changes, omitting the word club.
Second.
The other item we talked about was the prioritized list of projects.
And yes,
Reality check.
yes, a revised exhibit, ask the boosters to produce a revised exhibit B that gives priority order and a draft timeline, knowing that we won't hold them to it, but just for informational purposes.
All right.
I'd second that as well.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
there any further discussion, John, or do you have more to?
Oh, yes, I've got a few more. On number 6F, the hours, I would like it to be from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Not that we'll be playing ball until 11 p.m., but when we get our equipment out there and stuff, just getting everything put away could take that long.
Our typical normal operating hours for other parks are 10 p.m.
Do all your other parks have live lights except the Grandview? I know in North Hudson we don't have them. Field 5 we don't have them.
The only other park that we have lights in is Lakefront Park, the walking trail lights and some ambient lighting on the Dyke Road. I would just hate
Is
to
that something you?
Yeah, 11 o'clock to me is starting to extend into the neighborhood rights, but
Jim, or if we do this, we're going to have lights on there similar to the high school football field, which is directly down. So when you go to the football field, you're 10 feet behind that fence line. On the east side, you don't see any lights there. You know, it's all forward. And those are the kind of lights we've talked about putting on facilities. So that's what we'd be using here. But you could ask for approval of our lighting, so you can get the specs and you can
yeah, I'm
see
not.
other facilities that have them.
I think even though, and I only live 2 blocks from the stadium, so I see it a lot, and it doesn't bother me. I like it, but even though the lights are down, you have a brilliant field, so which then casts light. So some of the neighbors were unhappy with that to start, but I think what we should do is look at what limits we have on the high school on their lighting.
As far as hours of operation are concerned, I mean, like you said, Jim, 11 o'clock. I mean, if you stop playing ball at 9, let's just say a summer day, right? I mean, you can probably play ball until 8:45, 9 o'clock, in July. And then it would give them an hour to tear down, which would be around 10 o'clock. And I would be, amicable to that. And it aligns with our other park hours.
I think what we're looking for, because as Hudson expands, and it's expanding every day, we're looking at trying to get in 2 games a night on there. So the first one is hard to start before 5 o'clock. And that's because parents don't get home from work to get their kids there. And then starting the second one at 7 o'clock, it could be over by 10, but if the first one runs over, it could be later than 10. So I'd just like you to consider that in your thoughts of what you want to end up with. Maybe we go to 10:30. I think that would be fine.
Let's do that. That would be my recommendation. If you're good with 10:30 on a, in the middle of June when the days are the longest, there's still some daylight. I can see playing till 9:30 easy. So I'd be happy with 10:30.
Okay, good.
So So I'll amend my motion to include that as well.
Could you live with 10, Sarah? 10:30 just feels a little bit, again, the neighbors, I think you got a neighborhood issue going on past 10. It's also something we could revisit when they get the lighting, because there's no lighting there right now. So you could just put it through as is, and then when the lighting came up, you could talk about that at that point too. Because right now it's not really an issue, I think. There isn't lighting in there, right?
Right.
So I would say
You want to,
I would just go with as is right now, and then when the lighting gets proposed, figure out how to amend that.
yeah, we didn't have any limitations in the old contract.
Right.
I don't believe.
Right. Maybe 10 o'clock to match our other parks and then relook at it again when the lighting comes. 9 seems a little early.
Great.
Yeah, I think the 10 is consistent for the other parks, and I think it respects the neighborhood. So I would go with 10, Sarah, if you're open to that as a friendly amendment.
Yep. What else, John?
On number 7, we talked about it. I don't know what we agreed to on number 7 as far as keeping it neat. I think we keep it neat. We keep it mowed. We keep it trimmed. We fix that fence every time a car runs into it. So I think we're doing our thing.
Yep, stay the status quo on that, John. I don't receive any calls or complaints about that facility, so you're doing a good job.
I just would like to keep the road dust down, because the rod and gun clubs, they come to us and you know, they're creating most of the road dust. I mean, we park before we get a quarter mile on the road, you know. So I know some of the neighbors have complained to them about the dust. So anything you can do there is appreciated, and I'm not asking for anything specific.
That's the next item on our agenda.
Okay, let me see what else I have here.
Okay, we had a motion by Sarah, second by Paul, with all, including the time change as well.
John, unless it's critical, we're on a limited time schedule here, and we'd like to move on.
I do have one.
Okay, I've got one more thing. It'll take a second, and it's to your favor. I don't think we can get $300,000 worth of liability insurance. They don't sell it in that block. So can you say something in here that just it's greater than 300,000 for licensee insurance?
Yeah.
I think we've got $1 million on it right now, Mike.
Okay.
But if 300,000 is your thing and we can't get it, we have to go bigger. I just want to be, you know.
Okay.
I just wanted to say it here.
Yep, I can make that amendment.
And actually, I think you should just call an agent about that.
Okay.
Because I actually, when I was reading this, I was like, well, those are weird limits. Maybe it was fine in 2006, but I would just put in the appropriate limits. Like I would do rentals and it's, you know, it's like $1 million and $3 million or something, you know. So just put in what's normal for today's insurance.
Okay, I want to thank you for your time, but before we leave, can you tell us when we can see the next draft? And I know this expires at the end of this month, and I don't want it, I'd like to have it done as soon as we can.
So, John, what'll happen is, you know, if you can get me the updated priority list with kind of your top 3 and then maybe some ballpark pricing or a timeline, an estimated timeline, I'll make the other changes that were in the motion by Sarah. And what will happen is, and this is all, contingent on the committee, but it would go directly to Public Works with all the amendments made, or directly to council at the next council meeting on the 21st for final approval.
21st of this month.
Yep, Monday.
Will do.
Like tomorrow.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, John.
You're a great group to work with.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Been moved and seconded to amend this contract in several ways that Mike and Deb have down.
Yeah.
And with those amendments, do we have to include that it will go directly to the council? Or you need that, Mike?
No.
No.
All right. Any more discussion?
I just have one more question for John, if you're there still, John.
Yes, I'm here. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of here.
I wanted to ask you about the COVID addendum that is a part of that, and whether you think you can be successful with the social distancing with the crowd, so to speak.
I think we've taken stuff past your council parks committee for how we're going to do it at other facilities. So if like Grandview. So if that's acceptable to you, you can put that same wording in here. I don't know the details. Deb, you may, because I think you worked with Dave on that, right?
Yeah. Mike, we have that on file.
Did you hear me?
Yep.
And Paul, to answer your question, it doesn't sound like they're utilizing the fields this year.
Okay.
Regardless, so I mean, they'll be back in there in the spring, and we might be talking a whole different story, but they're in there, and like I said, everybody who's using our facilities will have to adhere to that.
So I just wanted to be clear, because I know that Jim brought that up last time as one of the things he wanted to look at for kind of the contract negotiation. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
So, Jim, on this next item, the resident that has reached out to us to put it on the agenda, she's unable to attend tonight, and she asked that we table it to the next meeting, to October, for discussion on the dust control at Cratley.
Okay. So, all right, the item after that, going faster than I can catch up here. Is this discussion and possible action of 9th Street traffic speeds? Is that the next item on Deb? Is that?
Yes.
Yep. So hopefully I can make this quick because I know our time is running short here. So we had, I believe even late last year, somebody reached out to the city in regards to excessive speeds on 9th Street, particularly between Vine and St. Croix. And so Chief Willems deployed the traffic counter and speed counter out there and got some information as to exactly what's going on out there. And the speed information that we got showed that the average speed of people going through that segment is like 27 miles per hour, which may not sound like a lot, but when the speed limit is 25 miles an hour and the average speed is over that, that means more than half of your people driving on a street are speeding. And if you look at the write-up, you can kind of see that I put in there that especially, in areas where you are expected pedestrians, such as this residential neighborhood, people are walking to their cars, people are walking to their school, they're walking towards downtown, anywhere. You really want people to be driving kind of more in that 20 miles an hour or less speed kind of area, because as vehicle speeds increase, the rate of injury and fatality exponentially increase. So when you're talking about people driving 40 miles per hour down the street, which we have some of those people driving that much down the street, you know, if somebody, heaven forbid, got hit walking across the street, then it's 50-50 that they're going to survive that crash, and that's no good. Whereas if they got hit and the vehicle is going 20 miles per hour, half the speed, the rate of fatality is about 10%. So there's kind of that trade-off. We want people to still be able to get through the street, but we also want them to be as safe as possible getting through there. So public safety considered this in August, and they directed me to look at where to add one or more always stop intersections along the street. I did look at that, but the warrants are not met for an always stop at any intersection along the segment. So I ended up doing some more brainstorming for alternatives. Came up with 3 different ones we could potentially deploy. First one would be to install some speed humps along that stretch of street. Speed humps forces traffic to slow down to about 15 miles per hour to safely proceed over the speed hump. I'm proposing to be 4 locations to install them along this segment. They'd have to be removed and reinstalled for winter. We do have a draft speed hump policy that we're trying to finalize, but even though it's not finalized, the addition of speed humps along this segment would be in conformance with that policy. Approximate cost for purchasing and installing 4 temporary speed humps would be about $6,500. Option 2, install curb extensions and median islands using delineators. I have a little sketch of what that would kind of look like. Kind of forces people to slow down by navigating through that area instead of just being able to speed right through there. At 4 different intersections, the approximate cost for doing that would be about $3,000. And again, these would be removed prior to winter and be reinstalled in the spring. Third option I looked at is installing kind of like mini roundabouts along that corridor using delineators and paint and some signage. An idea of what that would look like is provided in the issue sheet as well. Again, the delineators would need to be removed in winter and reinstalled in the spring, but the signing and striping would remain, so they would continue to function as roundabouts over the winter as well. That would be about $2,000. We don't have funds currently designated for this work. We'd have to identify some funding for that, for any option to be implemented. Did talk to Mike about this. Obviously, there's some concerns, especially in regards to winter, making sure that anything that's kind of in the, we don't want snowplows to be hitting things, and we want people to not skid through the intersection with ice or anything like that. So we want to make sure that anything, at least that we tried initially, would be easily removed and replaced kind of for winter. And so I just wanted to bring those options forward as some things to consider for this area. And I kind of wanted to get feedback from the committee. We also will be hopefully talking about this at Public Safety Committee, as well as get people's input as to something to try here. But thankfully, all these options would be pretty easy to remove if they're not functioning as we hope they would. And redeploy something somewhere else and try something else. So just wanted to get your thoughts as to things to keep considering or things to throw out, and as we move forward to public safety, talking about it as well.
Oh, Dean, thanks for your work on this. I just like option 3 the best. I'm not a big fan of those speed bumps. I just think they're difficult to work with. I don't think drivers like them on their cars for the wear and tear. The other one where the bump outs happen, I get a little concerned with bikers and kids on bikes, putting them further into the harm's way with traffic. But the third one I think works because I think it could slow traffic down, and if it was removed, it sounds like, Mike, it wouldn't affect the roundabout stuff. It wouldn't affect the plowing stuff, right?
Right.
Well, I'd like to look at that. It looks like the most affordable option, but to me it also looks like the most effective option. So I would just think more about that option 3 for myself.
I'm of the same mindset. Option C is my favorite. Option 2 might work. I'd kind of like to see a test to see which one is most effective and actually when on the what it looks like on the ground. And I am not in favor of speed bumps. That people slam on their brakes to slow down and then they accelerate hard to get back up to speed. So I don't think it accomplishes. Personally, don't believe that's a very good deterrent.
I'm on the same page. I also had thought that number 3 was the way to go. And for all the same reasons that you two have already identified. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the feedback, just in the spirit of brevity because of our time constraints tonight. For public safety, what we'll do is kind of forward this discussion we had, saying option 3 is kind of the consensus of this committee, and we'll talk about it, public safety, and hopefully they're on the same page and we can just go to council and make something happen. We are getting a little bit, late in the year for a lot of this stuff. So depending on how it shakes out in the approval process and getting funding identified, may or may not be able to happen until spring.
I wouldn't count on it. Yeah, I wouldn't count on it until spring.
I think that's okay though, Dean. I think if we had
Okay.
that radar for spring, I think that's okay.
Okay, great.
I was wondering, once we do decide, it'd be good to maybe reach out to the gentleman who brought this issue to the table. Just let him know,
Okay.
where we're going with it.
Sure. And I believe that he reached out to Joyce, so I think we have his information somewhere that we can certainly do that. Yep.
So Jim, we're not looking for a motion on this, right? We're just going via Dean back to public safety. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think we need a formal motion since it's not going to council yet. So.
Okay, great.
Would the chair entertain a motion to adjourn at this point, being the public forum is at 6:30?
Yes, I would.
I'll second that motion.
Motion to.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank
Dean.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, everyone.
Good work, guys.
Bye.
Nice work.